the manager hires a homeless girl for fun. Later, the surveillance cameras shocked everyone. In a vibrant San Francisco cafe, Samuel's life takes a surprising turn when he hires Lila, a homeless woman with a resilient spirit, to bring new energy to his coffee shop. What starts as an impulsive decision soon reveals hidden truths and sparks transformations neither could have anticipated. As their stories intertwine, will they find the strength to confront their pasts and shape a brighter future together? In the heart of San Francisco, the sun streamed through the large glass windows of Aurora Coffee, casting a warm glow over the rustic wooden tables, and the scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. Samuel Hargrove, the cafe's young manager, stood behind the counter, his hands nervously fiddling with the edge of his apron. He took a deep breath, trying to shake off the familiar monotony that had settled into his routine. The same faces came and went, the same conversations echoed around him, and he felt as though he was trapped in a never-ending loop of espresso shots and pastries. "Hey, Sam, can I get my usual?" called out an older gentleman, waving a hand from his usual spot by the window. Samuel forced a smile and nodded, reaching for the coffee pot. "Coming right up, Mr. Henderson." He filled the cup, the steam rising and curling in the sunlight, but his mind was elsewhere. He glanced at the clock on the wall, its hands ticking slowly, reminding him that time was slipping away without any excitement. As he poured the coffee, an idea sparked in his mind. He needed something different, something that would shake up the day-to-day routine. He looked around the cafe, observing the customers chatting, laughing, and enjoying their drinks, but he didn't feel the same joy. "Maybe it's time to bring someone new into the mix," he muttered to himself, wiping down the counter. Just as that thought settled, his eyes landed on a young woman sitting on the sidewalk outside the cafe. Lila, as she was known, was a familiar face, often seen wandering the streets with a small backpack slung over one shoulder. She had an indomitable spirit, despite the evident hardships marking her life. Samuel had always noticed her, but today, something compelled him to act. Today's the day, he decided, his heart racing with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He walked outside, feeling the cool breeze against his skin as he approached Lila. She looked up, her green eyes wary but curious. "Hey," Samuel said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I'm Samuel, the manager inside. I was wondering if you'd be interested in working at the cafe." Lila's eyebrows shot up in surprise, and she sat up straighter. "Work? You mean like a job?" Her voice was tinged with disbelief. "Yeah," he replied, feeling a mix of hope and uncertainty. "I could use someone to help out. It would be part-time, but it pays. You'd be serving customers, cleaning tables. You know, the usual stuff." She hesitated, biting her lip. "Why would you want me?" "I mean, I don't have any experience or—" "Exactly," he interrupted gently. "You don't need experience. I'm looking for someone who can bring a fresh perspective. And honestly, I just want to give you a chance. I see you here every day, and I know how hard it can be." Lila looked down at her hands, which were dirty and calloused from life on the streets. "I appreciate it, but I don't know if I'm cut out for it. What if I mess up?" Samuel leaned against the cafe's wall, crossing his arms. "Lila, everyone messes up sometimes. What matters is that you try. And I promise, I'll be here to help you. You won't be alone in this." With a deep breath, Lila finally met his gaze. "Okay, I'll do it. But just so you know, I can't promise I'll be great at it." "That's all I ask," Samuel said, relief flooding through him. "Let's just start with today. You can come in for a few hours, and we'll see how it goes." As they walked back into the cafe together, Samuel felt a sense of hope blossoming within him. Lila was a breath of fresh air, and he could already envision how her presence might change the atmosphere. He introduced her to the staff, who greeted her with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Samuel could sense the underlying whispers as they exchanged glances, but he brushed it off, determined to make this work. "Okay, Lila," he said, gesturing toward the counter. "Let's start with the basics. This is where we take orders, and over there is where we prepare the drinks." Lila nodded, her eyes darting around the cafe, absorbing every detail. "It's nice in here," she said, a hint of a smile breaking through her uncertainty. "Thanks. We try to keep it cozy," Samuel replied, his spirits lifting. And if you ever need help or have questions, just ask me. I'm here for you. As the hours passed, Lila began to find her footing. Samuel watched her interact with customers, a mix of shyness and determination in her demeanor. She took orders with a shaky voice, but gradually found a rhythm. Every smile from a customer seemed to boost her confidence, and Samuel felt a swell of pride watching her grow. "Hey, Lila," Samuel called from behind the counter during a brief lull. "You did great with that last order." "Thanks. I didn't think I could do it," she admitted, her cheeks flushed with excitement. Samuel grinned. "You're doing better than you think. Just keep being yourself." But the cafe was not without its challenges. As the day wore on, some customers cast judgmental looks in Lila's direction, whispers floating through the air like an unwelcome haze. Samuel felt a twinge of protective anger rise within him. He approached one table where a group of regulars sat, their laughter cutting through the cafe's atmosphere. "Hey guys," he said, trying to keep his tone light. "Everything okay over here?" One of the patrons, a middle-aged man with a sharp jawline, shrugged. "Just not used to seeing someone like her working here, you know?" Samuel clenched his fists, a surge of frustration coursing through him. "What do you mean by someone like her?" he asked, his voice steady but firm. "You know, someone from the streets." "It's just a bit unusual," the man replied dismissively. "Unusual or not, Lila is here to work and to grow," Samuel shot back, feeling his heart race. "If you can't accept that, maybe you should reconsider your place in this cafe." The man blinked, taken aback by Samuel's sudden assertiveness, but he quickly shrugged it off. "Whatever, man. Just saying." Samuel turned away, his heart pounding. He returned to the counter, where Lila was busy wiping down tables. He knew he had to protect her from the judgment of others, but he also understood that it would take time for everyone to adjust to the changes. "Hey, how are you holding up?" he asked, his voice softer now. Lila looked up, her brow furrowed. "I heard what they said," she admitted quietly. "Do you really think I can do this?" "Absolutely," Samuel replied, his conviction unwavering. "You're doing better than you realize. Just ignore the noise around you. Focus on what you want to achieve." As the day came to a close, Samuel felt a sense of accomplishment. Lila had faced her fears and stepped into her new role, and despite the challenges, she had shown resilience. They cleaned up together, the cafe quieting down as the sun dipped below the horizon. "Thank you for today, Samuel," Lila said, her voice genuine. "I didn't expect to feel happy." "That's just the beginning," he replied, a smile playing on his lips. "Welcome to Aurora Coffee, Lila. This is just the start of something great." They locked eyes, and in that moment, Samuel felt a connection form between them, a shared understanding that their paths had crossed for a reason, a spark igniting hope for both their futures. As sunlight streamed through the large windows of Aurora Coffee, illuminating the cozy space filled with the aroma of fresh brews and baked goods, Samuel Hargrove stood behind the counter, wiping down the espresso machine with a cloth that had seen better days. He glanced around the cafe, watching the regular customers engage in their morning rituals, reading newspapers, chatting with friends, or simply enjoying a moment of solitude with their coffee. But today felt different. There was an energy in the air, a sense of anticipation. Lila entered the cafe, her hair tousled by the morning breeze, her eyes bright but still shadowed by the weight of her past. Samuel felt a rush of warmth at the sight of her. It had only been a few days since he had hired her, but already their connection felt deep. She had a way of brightening the space, as if she carried the sun with her, even on the cloudiest days. "Good morning, Lila," Samuel called out, his voice cheerful as he leaned over the counter. "Morning, Sam," she replied, her smile infectious. "Ready to tackle another day?" "Absolutely. I've got a special drink in mind for today, a caramel mocha that I think you'll love." As Samuel began preparing the ingredients, Lila busied herself with organizing the pastries in the display case. She was still getting used to the rhythm of the cafe, but with each passing day, her confidence grew. She was eager to prove herself, not just to Samuel but to the world. "Hey, can I help with anything?" Lila asked, glancing over her shoulder. "Yeah, actually. Can you start brewing a fresh pot of coffee? We're running low, and I want to make sure we have enough for the morning rush," Samuel instructed, handing her a bag of freshly ground beans. Got it, Lila replied, her enthusiasm evident as she moved to the coffee station. As she filled the brewing machine, she felt a sense of purpose beginning to blossom inside her. For so long, she had felt invisible, lost in a city that rarely acknowledged her existence. But here in this cafe she was seen. She was valued. The morning rush began, and the cafe filled with the sound of chatter and the clinking of cups. Samuel and Lila worked side by side, moving in a practice dance as they took orders, prepared drinks, and served pastries. Samuel couldn't help but notice how well they worked together. Lila had a natural charm that drew customers in, and her laughter echoed throughout the cafe, making everyone feel at home. Do you think we could do something special for the customers? Like a theme day, Lila suggested during a brief lull, wiping her brow with the back of her hand. What do you have in mind? Samuel asked, intrigued. How about a throwback Thursday, where we serve drinks and pastries inspired by classic favorites? We could even play old school music. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. I love it. That could be a hit. Let's brainstorm some ideas for the menu, Samuel replied, feeling the thrill of collaboration. As they chatted, Lila mentioned her love for music, sharing memories of her mother singing to her when she was a little girl. Samuel listened intently, captivated by the way her eyes lit up as she spoke. Music has a way of connecting people, Lila said softly. It can make you feel less alone, you know? Samuel nodded, his heart heavy with understanding. I get that. My mom used to play the piano. I would sit on the floor and listen to her for hours. It was our special time. Lila looked at him with newfound respect. I never knew you played. You should play here sometime. I bet the customers would love it. Samuel chuckled, feeling a wave of shyness wash over him. I haven't played in years. I don't know if I still can. Come on. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just play from your heart, she encouraged, her voice earnest. Before Samuel could respond, the door swung open, and a group of customers burst in, their laughter filling the air. Lila quickly turned her attention back to the counter, her smile returning as she took their orders. Samuel felt a warmth spread through him. Lila had a gift for making everyone feel welcome. As the day wore on, they continued to share stories and laughter, their friendship blossoming amidst the busy cafe atmosphere. But beneath the surface, Lila carried her own fears. Every smile she offered was a shield against the vulnerability she felt inside. Samuel, oblivious to her inner turmoil, was proud of the progress they were making together. Later that afternoon, while organizing the supplies in the back room, they stumbled upon a dusty old box labeled miscellaneous. Curiosity piqued. Samuel opened it, revealing a collection of forgotten items, a broken coffee grinder, a few old menus, and, tucked away in the corner, a small, battered camera. Look at this, Samuel exclaimed, holding it up. I wonder if it still works. Lila approached, her eyes widening. Can I try it? Sure, but be careful. It looks pretty fragile. Samuel handed it to her, watching as she examined it with a blend of nostalgia and curiosity. As Lila fiddled with the camera, she accidentally pressed a button, and the lens whirred to life. Whoa, it actually works. Let's see if there's any film left in it, Samuel suggested, intrigued. After a few moments of searching, they discovered a roll of undeveloped film still inside. We should take some pictures around the cafe. Capture the moments, Lila proposed, her excitement infectious. Great idea. Let's start with the two of us, Samuel grinned, positioning himself next to her. Lila raised the camera, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Say cheese. Cheese. They both shouted, laughter erupting as the shutter clicked. As the afternoon light streamed through the window, they took turns capturing candid moments, the barista pouring intricate latte art, customers enjoying their drinks, and the little quirks that made Aurora Coffee feel like home. But then, as Lila flipped through the photos she had just taken, an unexpected image caught her eye. Wait, go back, she said, her heart skipping a beat as she pointed at the screen. Samuel squinted at the image, recognizing the familiar face of a woman standing in front of the cafe from years ago. That's my mom, he whispered, astonished. Lila's pulse quickened as she leaned closer. And that's me, she gasped, her voice trembling. The moment hung in the air, charged with emotion as both of them processed what they had discovered. A sense of connection forged through shared loss enveloped them, drawing them closer together in a world that often felt daunting and isolating. Do you think this was fate? Samuel pondered, his eyes locked onto Lila's. Maybe, Lila replied softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Maybe it means we're meant to help each other heal. In that moment, a profound understanding blossomed between them. They were both navigating their own paths of pain and resilience, and together, they could forge a new way forward, one filled with hope, friendship, and the promise of brighter days ahead. The morning sun streamed through the large windows of Aurora Coffee, casting a warm glow over the cozy cafe. Samuel Hargrove stood behind the counter, grinding coffee beans with a slight frown creasing his forehead. The rhythmic whir of the grinder was a familiar sound, but today it felt less comforting. He glanced at Lila, who was busy wiping down tables, her hair catching the light in a halo of gold. "Hey, Lila," Samuel called, trying to break the tension that had settled in his chest. "Could you grab the fresh pastries from the back? I think we're almost out." "Sure, Sam," Lila replied, her smile brightening the room. As she turned to head to the back, Samuel couldn't help but admire her resilience. Just a few weeks ago, she had been a stranger, a woman on the streets with a story he could hardly fathom. Now, she was part of his life, and he felt a connection to her that he hadn't expected. As Lila disappeared into the kitchen, Samuel's phone buzzed on the counter. He picked it up, glancing at the screen. It was a text from his boss, reminding him of the quarterly review coming up. The pressure to increase profits weighed heavily on him, and he felt the familiar knot of anxiety tighten in his stomach. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Everything okay?" Lila asked, reappearing with a tray of croissants. She had a knack for sensing moods, and today, she was particularly perceptive. "Just the usual stress," he admitted, trying to put on a brave face. "You know how it is, got to keep the numbers up or I'm out of a job." Lila placed the tray on the counter and leaned against it, her expression softening. "I get it, but you're doing something good here. It's not just about the money, right?" "Right," Samuel said, his heart warming at her words. "But sometimes it feels that way. I want to make this place a haven for people like you, not just another business chasing profits." She nodded, her gaze drifting to the customers filtering in and out, some familiar faces, some new. "You're doing that already, Sam. People come here because they feel safe. You're creating that space." Just then, the door swung open, and a group of regulars entered, their laughter filling the air. Samuel plastered on a smile, instinctively slipping into his manager persona. "Welcome back, everyone. What can I get started for you today?" As he took their orders, Lila quietly observed. She felt a sense of belonging she hadn't experienced in a long time. The cafe was more than just a job. It was a chance to redefine herself. The day wore on, and as the lunch rush slowed, Samuel and Lila found themselves alone in the cafe. Samuel wiped down the counter, while Lila stacked the leftover pastries for the end-of-day sale. The atmosphere felt lighter, almost electric with possibility. "Hey, do you want to help me with something?" Samuel asked, breaking the comfortable silence. "I was thinking we could organize a little event next week, something to bring the community together." "Like what?" Lila leaned in, her interest piqued. "A benefit concert. We could invite local musicians to perform and raise funds for a shelter or something similar. I think it could really bring people together and show them the heart of this place." Lila's eyes sparkled. "That sounds amazing. I know a few musicians who might be interested. They play on the street sometimes, but they're really talented." "Perfect. Let's make a list of who you know, and we can start reaching out." Samuel felt a rush of excitement. For the first time in a while, he felt a sense of purpose beyond just making numbers. As they brainstormed together, the air filled with laughter and ideas. Lila shared stories about the musicians she knew, while Samuel sketched out a plan for the event. They worked seamlessly together, their energy feeding off one another. Later that evening, as they were closing up, Samuel noticed Lila staring at the camera they had found earlier. It sat on the counter, a relic of the past that held untold stories. "Hey, do you want to take a look at that video again?" he asked gently. Lila hesitated, her fingers tracing the edge of the camera. "I'm not sure. It's hard." "I understand," Samuel said softly. "But maybe it could help us." "You're not alone in this, Lila. I'm here with you." Taking a deep breath, Lila nodded slowly. "Okay, let's do it." They sat together at the back of the cafe, the glow from a small lamp illuminating their faces. Samuel pressed play, and the video flickered to life, revealing a younger Lila with her mother, bright smiles and carefree laughter echoing through the cafe. Tears welled in Lila's eyes as she watched the scene unfold. "I remember this day," she whispered, her voice trembling. "We had gone to the park, and my mom promised to take me to that ice cream shop afterward." Samuel watched her closely, feeling a pang in his heart. "She seemed so happy." "She was," Lila replied, wiping away a tear. "Everything changed so fast. Sometimes I wish I could go back to that moment." "It's okay to feel that way," Samuel said, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You have every right to grieve what you lost." The video continued, capturing the essence of Lila's childhood, her mother's laughter, the warmth of their bond. Suddenly, the footage shifted and the screen went dark, the camera glitching. "What happened?" Lila gasped, her heart racing. "I think it's broken," Samuel said, frowning at the screen. "But the memories are still there. You can hold on to those." Lila nodded, her heart heavy yet lightened by the shared experience. "Thank you for being here, Sam. I don't think I could have done this alone." "Anytime, Lila. We're in this together." The two shared a moment of silence, the weight of their pasts hanging between them, but also a newfound hope for the future. Samuel felt a determination swell within him. He would do everything he could to help Lila and others like her. As they finished up for the day, Lila looked around the cafe, seeing it in a new light. It wasn't just a job. It was a place where people could find solace, connection, and hope. She turned to Samuel, a smile breaking through her earlier melancholy. "Let's make this event happen, Sam. Let's show people that they're not alone." "Absolutely," he replied, feeling invigorated by her enthusiasm. "We'll make it the best event this cafe has ever seen." With that, they locked up and stepped outside into the cool San Francisco evening. The streets were alive with the sounds of the city, but for Samuel and Lila, it felt like their own world had opened up, full of possibilities and paths yet to be explored. Samuel Hargrove had never been one to shy away from challenges. As the manager of Aurora Coffee, he had cultivated a cozy atmosphere filled with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the soft murmur of conversation. Yet, despite the warmth of the cafe, Samuel often felt a weight pressing down on him, a mixture of expectations from his higher-ups and the gnawing sense of inadequacy in providing a haven for his customers and staff. Lila's arrival had injected a breath of fresh air into the cafe's routine. Her bright spirit, despite the shadows of her past, was a stark contrast to the daily grind Samuel had grown accustomed to. But her challenges were palpable. The first week had been a whirlwind of awkward encounters with customers who regarded her with suspicion, often whispering behind their cups. Samuel had tried to shield her from the worst of it, but he could see the hurt in her eyes each time someone looked her way with disdain. On a particularly bustling Thursday morning, as the cafe buzzed with the usual morning rush, Lila stood behind the counter, her hands moving deftly as she prepared lattes and brewed coffee. Samuel watched her, a mixture of pride and concern knitting his brow. She was getting better, but the glances from several regulars still made her flinch. Just as he was about to step in and help with a particularly rude customer, Lila raised her hand and said, "I got this, Sam." Her voice was steady, and Samuel felt a surge of admiration for her resolve. Later that afternoon, the cafe quieted down, and the two found a moment of respite as they organized supplies in the storage room. The air was filled with the scent of roasted coffee beans, and sunlight streamed through the slatted windows, casting a warm glow around them. "Do you think we should do something special this weekend?" Lila asked, her eyes sparkling with a mix of mischief and inspiration. "Maybe a community coffee day? We could invite people in, have some local musicians play. It could help bring in more customers and support our friends on the streets." "That's a brilliant idea," Samuel exclaimed, his enthusiasm bubbling over. "But we need to think about logistics, how to get the word out, what to offer, and who to invite." He paused, running a hand through his hair. We'll need some funds too. Lila's expression shifted slightly, her brow furrowing. Maybe we can ask some of the local businesses for donations? I mean, they might want to contribute if they know it's for a good cause. Right. I can reach out to a few places I know, Samuel replied, feeling a swell of excitement at the prospect of working together on something meaningful. You know, I never really thought about how much we could do here. You have a knack for this, Lila. Thanks, she said, a shy smile breaking across her face. I just want to make a difference, you know? It's easy to feel invisible when you're on the street. Samuel nodded, the weight of her words resonating within him. You're making a difference already, just by being here. You've brought a new energy to this place. As they continued to brainstorm ideas for the event, they stumbled upon a dusty old camera tucked away in a corner of the storage room. Samuel picked it up, turning it over in his hands. What do you think this is doing here? He mused, squinting at it. Lila stepped closer, her curiosity piqued. Maybe it still works. We could see if we can find any memories in there. After some tinkering, they managed to get the camera to turn on. To their surprise, it played a video. As they watched, the screen flickered to life, revealing a younger Lila, laughing and playing with a woman who looked strikingly like her, a woman with the same bright eyes and infectious smile. Samuel's heart sank as he recognized the moment captured on film. Is that your mom? He asked softly, glancing sideways at Lila, who was now transfixed by the screen. Yes, she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. That was the last time I saw her before. Her voice trailed off, choked with emotion. The video showed Lila's mother lifting her high into the air, their laughter echoing through the small frame. The woman's joy was palpable, a radiant light in the dimness of their current reality. Samuel felt a lump form in his throat as he watched the fleeting happiness that had been stripped away from Lila so abruptly. I'm sorry, Lila, he said gently, feeling the weight of her loss pressed down on his chest. I can't imagine what you've been through. Lila turned to him, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. It's okay, Sam. I've had to carry it for a long time, but seeing this, it reminds me of who I was. Before everything changed, Samuel placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. You're still that person, Lila. You're strong and you're here, fighting every day. That means something. She nodded, a small smile breaking through the sadness. Thank you. It helps to hear that. Sometimes I forget. After a moment of silence, they both turned back to the camera, the video playing on loop, each frame a reminder of a past that felt so distant yet so close. Do you think we could use this somehow? Lila asked, her voice steadied by a newfound determination. For the coffee day, we could share our stories, invite people to share theirs. It might help others feel like they're not alone. That's a fantastic idea, Samuel exclaimed, his excitement returning. We could create a space for storytelling, maybe even have an open mic. It could bridge the gap between those who are struggling and those who want to help. As they continued to brainstorm, a sense of purpose enveloped them both. The pain of their pasts became a shared strength, a foundation upon which they could build something beautiful together. Let's do this, Samuel said, his voice filled with conviction. Let's turn this cafe into a beacon of hope for everyone who walks through the door. Lila's eyes sparkled with determination. Together, we can make a difference. They spent the next few hours planning, their laughter filling the cafe as they discussed potential artists to invite and ways to promote their event. It didn't matter that they were two individuals from different worlds. Together, they formed an unbreakable bond that would not only change their lives, but also touch the lives of many. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the cafe, Samuel and Lila stood side by side, the weight of their burdens feeling a little lighter. They had discovered a shared purpose, and no matter what challenges lay ahead, they were ready to face them together. As morning sun streamed through the large windows of Aurora Coffee, casting a warm glow over the rustic wooden tables, and the scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, Samuel Hargrove stood behind the counter, pouring lattes with a practiced hand, but his mind was elsewhere. The cafe had become more than just a place of work for him. It was a sanctuary where he had begun to forge a bond with Lila, the young woman he had taken a chance on. This morning was different. The tension in the air was palpable. Samuel had received a call the night before from the building's owner, who informed him that they were planning to sell the property. The news hit Samuel like a punch to the gut. He could hardly focus on the orders that were coming in. His eyes strayed to Lila, who was busy at a corner table, her brow furrowed in concentration as she worked on a flyer for the benefit event they had planned. "Hey, Lila," Samuel called, trying to mask his anxiety with a casual tone. "Can you come over here for a minute?" Lila looked up, her eyes brightening momentarily before the reality of the cafe's atmosphere settled back in. She slid away from her work, her chair scraping against the floor. "What's up?" "I just got some unsettling news. The owner wants to sell the building," he said, his voice low as if afraid the walls would hear. Lila's expression shifted, confusion giving way to concern. "What does that mean for us?" "For the cafe. It means we might have to close down," he admitted, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "I can't let that happen. Not after everything we've done." Lila's heart raced. The cafe had become a safe haven, a place where she could be herself, free from the judgments of the outside world. What if we buy it?" she suggested tentatively, her voice barely above a whisper. Samuel raised an eyebrow, surprised at her suggestion. "Buy it? How would we even do that? We don't have the money. Maybe we can raise funds, organize something bigger than the benefit event," Lila said, her eyes lighting up with possibility. "If we get the community involved, we could make it happen. People love this place." "I don't know, Lila." "It sounds ambitious," he replied, but a small spark of hope ignited within him. "Sometimes ambition is what we need," she said, her voice steady and confident now. "We can't just let it go without a fight." Samuel nodded slowly, feeling the weight of her words. Lila had a way of seeing possibilities where he saw only barriers. "Okay, let's brainstorm," he said, leaning against the counter. "We need a plan." As they sat together, Lila began jotting down ideas for their fundraiser. The cafe would host a community event, live music, local art displays, and a silent auction to raise funds. With each suggestion, Samuel felt a renewed sense of purpose. Maybe we could invite some local artists to showcase their work. Lila proposed, her pen moving swiftly across the paper. "And we can have a donation box for people who can't afford to bid but still want to help." "Great idea. And we could reach out to local businesses for sponsorships or donations for the auction items," Samuel added, excitement coursing through him. "Exactly. And we can promote the event on social media." "I've seen how powerful it can be," Lila said, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. As they worked side by side, the atmosphere of the cafe shifted. Other employees and regular customers began to notice the energy they were creating. Slowly, a few familiar faces approached, intrigued. "What's going on over here?" asked Tom, one of the baristas, a curious smile on his face. "We're planning a fundraiser to save the cafe," Lila announced, her voice bright. Tom's eyes widened. "Count me in. I can help with the music. I know a few bands that would love to play." "Awesome," Samuel exclaimed, grateful for the support. The more, the merrier. As the morning wore on, their small brainstorming session turned into a rallying call for the community. Customers who had been regulars for years began to join, offering their help and ideas. It felt like a movement was taking shape, and Samuel couldn't help but feel inspired. "Let's set a date," Lila suggested, her voice firm. "We need to make this happen quickly." "Right. How about in 2 weeks?" Samuel proposed, knowing that time was of the essence. "Perfect. We can do this," Lila said, determination etched on her face. In the days that followed, the cafe buzzed with excitement as the plans took form. Lila and Samuel became a dynamic duo, each complementing the other's strengths. Samuel had the managerial skills and connections, while Lila brought creativity and an infectious energy that drew people in. One afternoon, they were discussing logistics when Samuel's phone rang. It was an old friend from college, Jake, now a successful investor. "Hey Sam, long time no talk. How's the coffee business treating you?" Jake's voice boomed through the receiver. It's a bit complicated right now," Samuel replied, his heart racing as he considered revealing their predicament. "What do you mean?" Jake asked, sensing the hesitation. Samuel took a deep breath, deciding to lay it all out. "We're facing the possibility of losing our cafe. The building is being sold, and we're trying to raise funds to buy it ourselves. There was a pause on the other end before Jake spoke again. That's rough, man, but I've always believed in your vision. If you need financial backing, I might be able to help. Samuel's heart skipped a beat. Really? You would do that? Of course. But I need to be clear, if I invest, I'll want to have a say in the operations. I don't want to just hand over money and walk away, Jake said cautiously. Samuel felt torn. He wanted to save the cafe, but the thought of relinquishing control was daunting. I understand, but I've been working hard to create a community here. I don't want to lose that. Let's talk more about it. I'll come by the cafe tomorrow to discuss details, Jake said, ending the call. As Samuel hung up, he felt a mix of relief and anxiety. Lila, who had been listening intently, asked, "What did he say?" "He's willing to invest, but he wants a stake in the cafe," Samuel explained, running a hand through his hair again. "I'm just not sure if we're ready for that." Lila looked thoughtful. "What's more important to you? Keeping the cafe open or maintaining complete control?" Samuel considered her question. The cafe had become a lifeline, not just for him, but for Lila and so many others. "I guess it's about the mission. If we can keep it alive and help others, that's what matters." "Then maybe you should consider his offer," Lila encouraged. "We can still make it a place for everyone. It doesn't have to change who we are." Samuel nodded slowly, her words resonating with him. The cafe represented hope, resilience, and community. It was worth fighting for, even if it meant compromising in some ways. "Okay," he said, determination flooding back. "Let's meet with him tomorrow and see what he has to offer. We'll make this work." As they continued to plan for the benefit event, Samuel felt a renewed sense of hope. With Lila by his side, he knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they were more than just a manager and an employee. They were partners in a mission to create a haven for those in need. And as the sun set over San Francisco, casting a golden hue over the cafe, Samuel couldn't help but believe that perhaps, just perhaps, their dreams were within reach. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over San Francisco as Samuel Hargrove stood behind the counter of Aurora Coffee, his heart racing. It had been a long day, filled with the usual hustle and bustle of customers coming and going, but today felt different. Lila had been a whirlwind of energy, taking on tasks with a fervor that was both inspiring and contagious. Yet, as they both gathered for the closing shift, an air of tension loomed over them. "Lila," Samuel began, his voice steady but hesitant, "we need to talk about the event. If we are going to make this fundraiser happen, we have to get serious about the details." Lila turned away from the sink where she had been washing the last batch of mugs. The water splashed, sending droplets flying, but she didn't seem to notice. Instead, she leaned against the counter, her expression thoughtful. "I know, but with everything going on, I'm not sure how we'll pull it off. The deadline is approaching fast." Samuel nodded, running a hand through his hair. "I get that, but we have to reach out to the community. We can't let this opportunity slip away. It's not just about the funds, it's about raising awareness too." Lila bit her lip, her brow furrowing. "I want this to work, Samuel. I really do. But every time I try to think of who we can ask for help, I feel like I'm just hitting a wall. People like us, they don't usually get the chance to be heard." Samuel stepped closer, his eyes locking onto hers. "That's exactly why we need this event. We can show them that there are people who care, that there are ways to change things. But we can't do it alone." A flicker of determination sparked in Lila's eyes. "So what's the plan?" He took a deep breath, feeling a sense of urgency wash over him. "Let's make a list of local businesses we can approach. Maybe we can get some donations for food and drinks. And we need to think about who can perform or speak at the event. We could even set up a small art display to showcase the talents of people in our community." Lila's enthusiasm began to swell. "Yes, we could reach out to local artists, musicians. I know a few people who might be interested." She paused, her gaze drifting for a moment. "But what if they say no? What if they don't want to be associated with someone like me?" "Lila," Samuel said gently, "you can't think like that. You're not just someone like you. You have a story, and it matters. People need to hear it. That's what will make them want to help." The silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken thoughts and emotions. Lila's hands gripped the edge of the counter as she processed Samuel's words. "You really think so?" "I know so," he replied, a sense of confidence swelling within him. "Let's meet tomorrow to start making those calls. We'll make a list tonight and hit the ground running together." As Lila nodded, a small smile crept across her face, illuminating her features. "All right, let's do it. I believe in this." The next day, they gathered in the cafe, the air buzzing with a newfound energy. Samuel had prepared a list of potential sponsors and local artists, while Lila brought her own contacts and ideas. They sat at a table cluttered with coffee cups and notebooks, brainstorming ways to attract attention. "What about a social media campaign?" Lila suggested, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "We could create a hashtag, something catchy that people can share." Samuel leaned back in his chair, considering her idea. "That could work. We could also reach out to local influencers. If they share our cause, it might draw more people in." Lila's fingers danced over the pages of her notebook. "And we could organize workshops during the event, like art classes or poetry readings. That way, people can participate and feel more connected." "Great idea," Samuel exclaimed, jotting it down. "This is turning out to be more than just a fundraiser. It's becoming a community event." As they continued to brainstorm, Lila felt a sense of hope blossoming within her. This was more than just a job. It was an opportunity to create change. The laughter and conversations flowed easily between them, their camaraderie deepening as they shared their ideas. Later that week, the cafe buzzed with activity as they finalized the details for the event. Posters were hung around the neighborhood, and a dedicated group of volunteers emerged, eager to lend their support. Samuel and Lila worked tirelessly, fueled by passion and a shared vision. One afternoon, as they prepared for a meeting with potential sponsors, Samuel turned to Lila, a serious expression on his face. "I've been thinking about what happens if we don't raise enough money. What is our backup plan?" Lila paused, her heart sinking for a moment. "I don't know, Samuel. I didn't want to think about that. But maybe we can start small. If we can't buy the cafe, perhaps we can at least secure a space for some workshops. Something to keep the momentum going." "Yeah," he agreed, studying her face. "But we need to be realistic. If we can't save this place, we have to find another way to continue helping others." A silence fell over them, thick with uncertainty. Lila bit her lip, the weight of their situation pressing heavily on her shoulders. "I never wanted to let you down. I thought this could be something bigger, something that could change lives." "You're not letting me down," Samuel said firmly. "This is a team effort. No matter what happens, we've already made a difference. Look at the people who are stepping up to help us. They believe in what we're doing." Lila nodded, feeling the warmth of his words wash over her. "You're right, and I can't lose sight of that. We're building something together, and that matters." Their conversation was interrupted by the jingle of the cafe door as a familiar customer entered. It was Mr. Thompson, a local artist who often frequented Aurora Coffee. He approached the counter, his usual jovial demeanor brightening the atmosphere. "Good afternoon, you two. What's all this buzz about?" he asked, glancing at the posters lining the walls. Samuel exchanged a glance with Lila, then smiled. "We're organizing a community event to raise funds and awareness for people in need. We could really use your support." Mr. Thompson raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "I'd love to help. What do you need from me?" Lila's heart raced with excitement. "We're looking for local artists to showcase their work. Would you be willing to display some of your pieces?" "Absolutely," he replied without hesitation. "I've got a few new paintings that would fit perfectly. Count me in." As Mr. Thompson agreed to participate, Lila felt a surge of hope. This was it. They were building something real, something that could change lives, including her own. The cafe, once a mere job, now served as a beacon of hope for the community. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson," Samuel said, his voice full of gratitude. "Your support means the world to us." With each passing day, Aurora Coffee transformed into a hub of creativity and collaboration. Lila and Samuel's friendship blossomed alongside their project, their shared vision forging a bond that transcended their individual struggles. As they worked late into the evenings, Lila often found herself reflecting on how far she had come. "You know, Samuel," she said one night, "I never imagined I'd be doing something like this. It feels incredible." Samuel looked up from his notebook, a warm smile spreading across his face. "You deserve this, Lila. You fought so hard to get here, and now you're making a difference. That's something to be proud of." Lila felt her heart swell with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you. You took a chance on me when no one else would. You've changed my life." Their eyes locked, and in that moment, both understood the profound impact they had on each other. The journey ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges and obstacles. But together, they had found purpose, friendship, and hope, intertwined in a story that was only just beginning. As sunbeams streamed through the large glass windows of Aurora Coffee, casting warm reflections on the polished wooden countertops, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, mingling with the faint scent of baked goods. Samuel Hargrove stood behind the counter, meticulously arranging pastries in the display case, though his mind was preoccupied. The weight of the impending crisis loomed over him like a dark cloud. The owners of the building had made it clear that they were selling, and the thought of losing the cafe he had poured his heart into was unbearable. "Hey, Sam." Lila's voice broke through his thoughts. She had just emerged from the back room, her uniform slightly rumpled but her smile bright. Although she was still adjusting to her new role, she had become an integral part of the cafe, bringing a unique energy that Samuel couldn't help but admire. "Good morning, Lila," Samuel replied, forcing a smile as he turned to face her. "How's it going?" "Busy, but that's good." Lila grinned, her dark hair falling into her eyes as she reached for a tray of croissants. "I think I'm finally getting the hang of this." "Definitely. You're doing great," he encouraged, watching her with pride as she moved with determination. However, the cheerful atmosphere was undercut by the harsh reality they both faced. "Lila, can we talk for a second?" Samuel said, his tone shifting as he gestured for her to join him in a quieter corner of the cafe. "Sure, what's up?" She tilted her head, curiosity etched on her face. Samuel took a deep breath, the words heavy on his tongue. I've been thinking a lot about the cafe and what's going to happen. The owners are selling, and if we can't come up with the money to buy this place, we'll have to close." Lila's expression shifted from curiosity to concern. "What? No, that can't happen. This place means too much to us and to everyone who comes here." She bit her lip, her brow furrowing. "Have you talked to anyone about this?" "I've tried," Samuel admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. "I even reached out to some investors, but they want too much in return. I don't know if I can give up my position here. This cafe is my life." Lila stepped closer, her eyes steady and filled with determination. "What if we find a way to raise the money ourselves? We can organize something. A fundraiser, maybe." "A fundraiser?" Samuel echoed, his brow furrowing. "That's a great idea, but do you really think we can pull it off?" "Why not? We have a community here, Sam. People love this place. We could host a charity event, maybe a coffee tasting or an open mic night. Get people involved," Lila suggested, her voice growing more enthusiastic. Samuel pondered this for a moment, his heart racing at the thought of their idea taking shape. "You really think that would work?" "Absolutely. We can create a buzz, get some local musicians to perform, maybe even collaborate with other small businesses. It could be the event of the season." Lila's eyes sparkled with excitement, and Samuel couldn't help but feel her enthusiasm was contagious. "All right, let's do it," he said, his spirits lifting. "But we'll need to plan this carefully. We'll need to spread the word and get as many people involved as possible." Lila nodded eagerly. "I can start making flyers and we can post about it on social media. I know some local artists who might want to perform too." "Great. But we'll also need to think about logistics. How to set up the space, what supplies we need." Samuel began listing possibilities, his mind racing with ideas. "We can handle that," Lila interrupted, her confidence infectious. "Let's break it down into manageable steps. I can take the lead on the marketing side, and you can handle the logistics and supplies." "Teamwork, right?" "Teamwork," Samuel echoed, a smile breaking through his earlier stress. "I like the sound of that." As they dove into the planning, the atmosphere in the cafe began to shift. Lila's energy was invigorating, and soon customers began to notice the buzz between the two of them. Regulars exchanged glances, intrigued by the animated discussions happening behind the counter. "Hey, what's the excitement about?" asked Tom, a middle-aged man who frequented the cafe each morning. "We're planning an event to save Aurora coffee," Lila announced enthusiastically, her eyes sparkling with passion. Tom raised his eyebrows in surprise. "Really? That sounds interesting. What's the plan?" "We're thinking of a fundraiser, some kind of open mic night or coffee tasting. We want to get as many people involved as possible," Samuel replied, his enthusiasm matching Lila's. "Count me in. I'll help spread the word," Tom said, giving a thumbs up. "This place is like a second home to me." As word spread, other customers began to chime in, offering their skills and resources. A local musician named Jessica offered to perform, while a bakery owner promised to donate pastries for the event. The cafe transformed into a hive of activity, with Lila at the helm, her leadership shining through as she organized everything with remarkable efficiency. Days turned into a whirlwind of planning and preparation. Samuel found himself exhilarated by the collective effort, the community rallying around their cause. Lila's vision kept evolving, her ideas flowing freely as she drew on her own experiences. "We can even incorporate a storytelling segment," she suggested one afternoon, her voice brimming with excitement. "People can share their own journeys, what this cafe means to them, and how they've overcome challenges." "That could be really powerful," Samuel agreed, feeling a lump form in his throat at the thought. It would create a deeper connection between everyone. As the day of the event approached, the cafe was adorned with colorful flyers, twinkling fairy lights, and a palpable sense of anticipation. The walls echoed with laughter and chatter as customers came in to grab their drinks, eager to contribute to the cause. On the night of the event, the cafe was packed. Samuel stood at the entrance, greeting guests with a wide smile, while Lila moved through the crowd, her presence magnetic. The sound of music filled the air as local artists took the stage, their melodies weaving a tapestry of hope and resilience. "Thank you all for coming," Lila exclaimed, grabbing the microphone. "Tonight isn't just about saving this cafe, it's about celebrating our community and supporting one another through our struggles. We all have our stories, and together we can create a brighter future." The crowd erupted in applause, and Samuel felt a warmth swell in his chest. As the night unfolded, people began to share their stories, tales of heartbreak, triumph, and the role Aurora Coffee had played in their lives. Each narrative emphasized the cafe's importance as a safe haven, where connections were forged and dreams took root. "Samuel, come on up," Lila called, gesturing for him to join her on stage. With a hesitant smile, he stepped forward, the spotlight illuminating his face. "I just want to say how grateful I am to everyone here. This cafe has been my passion, but it's the people that make it special. Without you, we wouldn't be standing here tonight." The audience cheered, and Samuel's heart swelled. He glanced at Lila, who stood beside him, her eyes shining with pride. In that moment, he realized how far they had both come, how their paths had intertwined in a way that neither had anticipated. As the night continued, Samuel and Lila moved through the crowd, soaking in the warmth of the connections being made. They laughed, shared moments of joy, and felt the power of their collective effort. By the end of the evening, they had raised a significant amount of money, and more importantly, they had fostered a community spirit that resonated deeply. "I can't believe we did it," Lila said, her voice filled with awe as they finally took a moment to catch their breath. "Neither can I," Samuel replied, a smile breaking across his face. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" "Definitely," Lila said, her eyes sparkling with determination. "Together, we can do anything." As they stood side by side, the cafe bustling around them, Samuel understood that their journey was just beginning. Together, they had ignited a flame of hope that would continue to burn brightly, illuminating the paths of many who sought solace within the walls of Aurora Coffee. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over the bustling streets of San Francisco. Samuel Hargrove stood behind the counter of Aurora Coffee, his mind preoccupied with the upcoming event they had planned. The cafe had become a sanctuary not just for him, but for Lila and others like her. The community they were building was fragile yet vibrant, teetering on the edge of something bigger than either of them could have imagined. "Samuel," Lila called from the back, her voice breaking through his thoughts. He turned to see her emerging from the storeroom, her face flushed with excitement and determination. She was carrying a box filled with assorted supplies for the event they were organizing to support the local homeless community. "I think we should add some more decorations to the cafe. It needs to feel festive." Samuel chuckled, wiping his hands on his apron. "You might be right. A little color can brighten up even the gloomiest of days. What do you have in mind?" Lila grinned, her eyes sparkling with ideas. "How about we make some paper lanterns? I saw a tutorial online that looked easy enough. We could hang them from the ceiling. It would make the place feel so welcoming." "Paper lanterns it is then," Samuel agreed heartily. "I'll help you gather the materials. We'll need lots of colored paper, scissors, and string. Do you think we can manage to make enough in time for the event?" "Of course. We can stay late tonight if we have to," Lila replied, her enthusiasm contagious. Samuel found himself smiling. Her spirit was invigorating. It reminded him of why he had hired her in the first place. As they gathered supplies from the storage room, the atmosphere in the cafe shifted. Customers filtered in, some familiar faces and others new, each seeking their daily dose of caffeine and comfort. Samuel greeted them with a warm smile, but his attention kept drifting back to Lila, who was busy organizing the craft supplies, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Hey, Lila," he called out. "You want to take a break and help me with the espresso machine? I could use a hand." "Sure," she responded, wiping her hands on her jeans before joining him behind the counter. "What do I need to do?" "Just watch how I do this first," Samuel instructed, demonstrating the process of grinding the beans and tamping them down with precision. "It's all about the right pressure. You want to create a smooth, rich extraction." Lila leaned in closer, her eyes focused intently on his hands. "I had no idea it was so precise. It looks like art." "It is a bit like art, actually," Samuel replied, smiling at her enthusiasm. "Every cup tells a story. You can even experiment with flavors and textures once you get the hang of it." "Can I try?" she asked, her voice tinged with eagerness. "Absolutely. Here, let me show you," he said, stepping aside to give her space. Lila took over, her hands slightly trembling with excitement as she ground the beans and prepared the espresso. Samuel watched as she poured her heart into the task, her focus unwavering. "Wow, this is harder than it looks," Lila admitted, laughing at herself as the grounds scattered slightly. "I might need more practice." "Don't worry, you'll get there," Samuel reassured her, feeling a swell of pride. "It's all about patience and practice. Just like life, right?" "Yeah, definitely," Lila replied, her smile fading for a moment as she reflected on her past. "Sometimes it feels like I'm still trying to figure out the recipe for my own life." Samuel paused, sensing the shift in her mood. "If it helps, I think you're doing an amazing job. You've come so far since you started here." Lila looked up, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Thank you, Samuel. That really means a lot. I never thought I'd have a place where I belong." "You belong here, Lila," he said firmly, his voice steady. "You're part of this cafe, part of this community we're building. And you're not alone in this journey." With those words, Lila felt a warmth spread through her chest, a feeling of acceptance she had missed for so long. "I want to help more people. I want to make a difference, just like you've done for me." Samuel nodded, inspired by her passion. "We will. Together, we can create something beautiful. Just think of how many lives we can touch with the event." "Let's do it," she declared, her determination reigniting. "We can raise awareness and funds. Maybe even organize some workshops to teach others to make coffee." "I love that idea. We can showcase some of your talents too," he added, excitement bubbling between them. "You've always had that creative spark. Let's put it to use." They spent the next few hours preparing for the event, their laughter mingling with the comforting sounds of the cafe. The air was filled with the rich aroma of coffee, and the cheerful chatter of customers created a vibrant backdrop. Samuel felt a sense of camaraderie growing between him and Lila, a bond strengthened by shared purpose and hope. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Casting long shadows across the cafe, Lila turned to Samuel, her expression suddenly serious. "Samuel, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "What's on your mind?" he replied, sensing the weight in her tone. "Do you ever worry about what happens next? Like, what if this all falls apart?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Samuel took a moment to consider her question. "Honestly, yes. I worry all the time. But I also believe in what we're doing. I believe in you and us. No matter what challenges we face, we'll find a way through together." Lila nodded, absorbing his words. She felt a surge of gratitude for his unwavering support. "I'm glad you're here, Samuel. You've changed my life. And you've changed mine," he replied, a soft smile playing on his lips. "This cafe is more than just a business to me now. It's a place where people can find hope and community. And that's because of you." Their eyes met, and in that moment, they both understood the depth of their connection. It was a bond forged through struggles and triumphs, one that transcended their individual experiences. They were partners, allies in a world that often felt harsh and unforgiving. As the last customers trickled out and the lights dimmed, they began to clean up, the soft sounds of their movements punctuated by shared laughter and lighthearted banter. Lila felt a sense of belonging she had never experienced before, and Samuel found solace in her presence. "Let's make this event unforgettable," Lila declared, a fierce determination in her voice. "For everyone who needs it." Together, Samuel affirmed, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. They were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united by their dreams and the paths they had chosen to walk together. As sunbeams poured into the Aurora coffee as the morning rush began, casting a warm glow across the eclectic decor, Samuel Hargrove stood behind the counter, his hands deftly preparing lattes while keeping an eye on Lila, who was meticulously arranging pastries in the display case. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the sweet scent of baked goods, creating an inviting atmosphere that was both comforting and electrifying. "Hey, Lila, do you think we should offer a special today? Something that could draw in more customers?" Samuel called out, wiping the counter with a cloth, his brows slightly furrowed in thought. Lila looked up from the pastries, her brows slightly creasing in concentration. "How about a mom's favorite muffin? I used to help my mom bake them. It could be a way to honor her," she suggested, her voice tinged with nostalgia. Samuel paused, the weight of her words settling on him. "That sounds perfect. What's in it?" he asked, intrigued. "Blueberries and lemon zest," she replied with a hint of excitement. She always said it reminded her of summer. "Then let's do it." Samuel grinned, his enthusiasm infectious. "We can put up a sign, Mom's favorite muffin, a taste of summer." As Lila began to gather the ingredients, Samuel couldn't help but admire her determination. She had come so far from the troubled young woman he had first met on the streets. There was a spark in her eyes now, a glimmer of hope that hadn't been there before. They had formed a bond, one built on shared struggles and the desire to create something meaningful. Just then, the door swung open, and a group of regulars entered, filling the cafe with laughter and chatter. Samuel greeted them with a smile, but his attention was pulled back to Lila, who was now measuring flour with precision. A sense of pride washed over him. He felt as if he had a partner in this venture, not just an employee. "Hey, Lila, you're looking like a pro back there," a familiar voice called from the crowd. It was Sarah, one of their regular customers and a local artist. She walked up to the counter, her vibrant scarf fluttering like a banner in the wind. "Thanks, Sarah. I'm just trying to keep up with Samuel," Lila replied, her cheeks flushing slightly as she caught the compliment. "Trust me, you're doing great. I can't wait to try that muffin." Sarah beamed, her eyes sparkling with genuine enthusiasm. As Lila placed the ingredients into a mixing bowl, she felt a sense of belonging that she had long missed. The cafe was no longer just a job. It was a community, a sanctuary where her past didn't haunt her as much. She glanced up at Samuel, who was now chatting with another customer, and felt a surge of gratitude. He had given her a chance when no one else would. "Lila, how's the muffin coming along?" Samuel asked, returning to her side, the smile on his face contagious. "Almost done," she chirped, her fingers dancing through the flour. "Just need to mix in the blueberries." Perfect. I'll handle the signage, he said, grabbing a piece of chalk and heading to the board. As he wrote, a small knot of anxiety twisted in his stomach. He knew they needed to draw in more customers, especially with the impending threat of the cafe's future looming over them. But he pushed the thought aside, focusing on the moment. Lila finished mixing the batter and poured it into the muffin tins. I think we're ready, she said, wiping her hands on her apron. Let's get these in the oven, Samuel said gleefully, his heart lightening with each passing minute. They worked in sync, their movements fluid as they filled the kitchen with laughter and camaraderie. As the muffins baked, the cafe began to fill with the sweet aroma that wafted through the air, drawing in customers from the street. Lila could see more faces at the counter, and her heart raced with excitement. This was what she had wanted, to be part of something bigger. Hey, can I help with anything else? A voice called from the side. It was Mark, another barista who had been working at the cafe for a few months. Actually, yes. Can you help Lila with the display? We want to make our muffins look as appealing as possible, Samuel replied, grateful for the extra hands. Mark nodded eagerly, stepping behind the counter to assist Lila. So, what's the secret ingredient? He asked, winking at her. Love, of course, she laughed, her spirit buoyant. And a little bit of lemon zest. As the muffins baked, Samuel seized the opportunity to chat with the customers, his natural charisma shining through. He noticed the buzz of excitement building in the cafe. It was as if everyone could sense that something special was happening, and with each passing moment, he felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. They were not just selling coffee. They were creating a space where stories intertwined. After what felt like an eternity, the oven timer rang, and Lila jumped up, her eyes wide with anticipation. They're ready, she exclaimed, pulling on oven mitts and carefully extracting the golden brown muffins. Let's put them on display, Mark said, his voice filled with enthusiasm. Together, they arranged the muffins like little treasures, placing them front and center for everyone to see. Samuel stepped back to admire their work. Looks amazing, team. Now, let's get the word out. He turned to the customers. Everyone, we have a special today. Mom's favorite muffin. Limited supply, so get them while they last. The response was immediate. People began to line up, eager to try the new creation. Lila felt a surge of pride as she watched the customers' reactions. They were savoring not only the taste, but the story behind the muffins. With every bite, they were connecting with her memories, her past. As the rush continued, Lila found herself caught up in the flurry of activity. She was no longer just a girl from the streets. She was a vital part of this thriving community. Samuel's faith in her had transformed her life, and she wanted to give back as much as she could. Samuel, I think we should do more of these specials. Maybe a story of the month, where we highlight different flavors and the stories behind them, Lila suggested, her eyes shining with excitement. That's a brilliant idea, Samuel replied, his face lighting up. We could even invite customers to share their own stories. It would bring our community closer together. Exactly, Lila beamed. We could create a whole event around it. Storytelling nights could be a hit. As they brainstormed, Samuel felt a sense of clarity wash over him. They were building something beautiful together, something that extended far beyond the walls of the cafe. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, and the burdens he had been carrying seemed lighter. Let's do it, he said resolutely. We'll start with this month's theme, and I'll get the word out. Lila smiled, her heart swelling with hope and determination. She knew there would be challenges ahead, but with Samuel by her side and the support of the community they were cultivating, she felt ready to face anything. Together, they were creating a sanctuary, a place where stories could flourish and lives could change. As the day progressed, laughter and chatter filled the air, and Lila couldn't help but feel grateful. The cafe was more than just a job now. It was home. And in that moment, among the clinking of cups and the warmth of shared stories, she realized that she had finally found her path. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden glow over the bustling streets of San Francisco. Inside the quaint Aurora coffee, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the sweet scent of pastries, creating an inviting atmosphere. Samuel Hargrove stood behind the counter, his brow furrowed in concentration as he prepared drinks for the steady stream of customers. The cafe had become a sanctuary for him and Lila, a place where they had transformed their struggles into a shared purpose. Lila, now more confident and assertive, moved gracefully between the tables, chatting with customers and ensuring their experience was nothing short of delightful. Her laughter rang through the cafe, a sound that had become music to Samuel's ears. They had built a rhythm together, a harmonious blend of his managerial skills and her innate ability to connect with people. As he watched her, a sense of pride swelled within him. She had grown tremendously since the day he had taken a chance on her. "Hey, Sam," Lila called out, her voice bright as she approached the counter. "Table 5 just ordered a caramel macchiato. You ready to work your magic?" Samuel chuckled, shaking his head. "You know that's all you, right? I just make the coffee. You sell it. Teamwork makes the dream work, remember?" she replied, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "And I couldn't do this without your expertly brewed coffee." As he prepared the drink, a shadow fell over the cafe. Samuel looked up to see a group of men in suits entering, their demeanor commanding. They were the property developers who had expressed interest in the cafe's building. Samuel's stomach twisted at the sight of them, a reminder of the uncertainty that loomed over their heads. "Good afternoon," one of the men said, his voice smooth yet condescending. "We're here to discuss the future of this establishment." Lila caught Samuel's eye, her expression shifting from playful to serious. "I'll take care of the customers," she whispered, sensing the tension in the air. "Thanks," he replied, grateful for her support. As she moved to the other side of the cafe, he turned his attention back to the men. "Gentlemen," Samuel began, straightening his posture. "I didn't expect to see you here today." "Neither did we, but we thought it prudent to check in," the lead developer replied, a smirk playing on his lips. "You see, we're planning to move forward with the sale of this property, and we wanted to give you a heads up." Samuel's heart sank. "You mean to say you're going through with it? After everything we've done here?" "Business is business, my friend," the man said, shrugging nonchalantly. "But I'm sure you've heard that before. Frankly, we have no interest in a little cafe when we could be building luxury apartments." Lila, overhearing the conversation while serving coffee to a customer, felt a surge of anger. She approached the table, her chin lifted defiantly. "Excuse me, but you can't just waltz in here and talk about tearing apart this community." The men looked at her in disbelief, clearly unaccustomed to being challenged. "And who might you be?" one of them asked, raising an eyebrow. "I'm Lila," she replied, her voice steady. "And this cafe isn't just a business. It's a lifeline for people like me, people who need support and a place to belong. You can't put a price on that." Samuel felt a wave of admiration wash over him as he listened to her speak. She was no longer the timid girl he had first met. She had become a fierce advocate for their cause. The developers exchanged glances, clearly taken aback by her passion. "Look, we understand your sentiment," the lead developer said slowly, "but this is not a charity. We have investors to please, and they want to see progress. Progress shouldn't come at the expense of people's lives." Lila shot back, her voice rising. "This cafe is more than a building. It's a community hub. It's where people come together, support one another, and share their stories." Samuel stepped forward, placing a hand on Lila's shoulder. "She's right. We've worked hard to create an environment that lifts people up. We're not just going to let that be taken away without a fight." The developers regarded them with growing annoyance. "You can fight all you want, but you're outmatched. Our plans are already in motion. You have until the end of the month to vacate." With that, they turned on their heels and strode out of the cafe, leaving a heavy silence in their wake. Samuel and Lila exchanged glances, the weight of the situation settling heavily on their shoulders. "What now?" Lila asked, her voice barely above a whisper as she sat down at a nearby table, her bravado fading. "We fight," Samuel declared, a newfound determination igniting within him. "We can't let them take this away from us. We need to rally the community. Do you really think we can make a difference?" Lila asked, her eyes searching his for reassurance. Samuel nodded, feeling the fire of their shared mission. "Absolutely. We'll organize a meeting, invite our regulars, and spread the word. We can show them how much this place means to everyone." Lila's expression brightened, a spark of hope returning to her demeanor. And maybe we can use the event we were planning to raise awareness. We can make it a fundraiser to fight for our cafe." "Exactly," Samuel exclaimed, his excitement contagious. "We'll show them that we're not just a cafe, we're a community. People will come together to support us. We'll create a movement." Days turned into nights, and the cafe buzzed with activity as they prepared for the upcoming event. Samuel and Lila worked tirelessly, reaching out to local businesses for donations and using social media to gather support. The cafe's regulars rallied around them, sharing their own stories of how Aurora Coffee had impacted their lives. On the day of the event, the cafe was packed. The sound of laughter and chatter filled the air, and the warm glow of fairy lights created an inviting atmosphere. Samuel stood behind the counter, a sense of pride swelling in his chest as he watched Lila interact with the crowd. "Thank you all for being here tonight," Lila said, taking the mic. Her voice trembled with emotion, but her resolve was unshakable. "This cafe is more than just a place to get coffee. It's a home for many of us, a space where we can be ourselves and find support." As she spoke, Samuel caught sight of familiar faces in the crowd, regular customers, neighbors, and even some former patrons who had once been in tough situations. They had all come together for a common cause, and it filled him with hope. "Tonight, we're not just raising funds, we're raising our voices," Lila continued. "We're showing that our community matters, that we won't back down easily. Together, we can fight for a brighter future for all of us." As the night wore on, they raised a considerable amount of money, but more importantly, they raised awareness. The energy in the cafe was palpable, a sense of unity that Samuel had never felt before. As the event came to a close and the last guests trickled out, Lila turned to Samuel, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "We did it, Sam. We really did it." "We did," he agreed, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "And this is just the beginning. We'll keep fighting until the end." In that moment, they both knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Their lives had intertwined in ways neither had anticipated, and together, they would forge a path forward, hand in hand, refusing to let their dreams slip away.